Okay, welcome to the Instant Reaction podcast. Rob Staton and Robbie Williams with you here as the Seahawks. Well, they nearly threw it away at the end, but they do hold on to get a win against the New England Patriots by a score of 35 points to 30. They get a 2-0 for the season, and it feels like it's another way to win a game under Pete Carroll. These 10 years, they have found every single way that you can win a football game, and this was an even newer version tonight. We've seen it all over the last decade. But there's so much to talk about here. Robbie, what is the main takeaway for you? The game is just finished. You know, what is your main takeaway from that victory?
I'll take it. That's my takeaway. I'll take a win. It was not pretty, obviously. That ending was stressful, and under Pete Carroll, we've had a lot of stressful games that we seem to pull out. And so, hey, I'm proud of the guys for there at that third and goal or whatever it was to win the game, 2 seconds on the clock, and they were able to make that stop. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was over because we just haven't been able to stop Cam Newton. I thought anytime anybody gets inside the 5-yard line on us, I feel like they're going to score a touchdown on us because we just can't stop the run right up the gut. And Cam Newton is a quarterback playing running back. I mean, he's just that good right there. And so I was thinking, oh no, it's over. But the takeaway for me is, we definitely need some help on the defensive line. I mean, this is going to be our theme. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but that is clearly an issue. We saw that tonight, and that's the biggest takeaway. And on the other side of it, Russell Wilson is playing like an MVP right out the gate. I mean, he is dialed in. He's on another level. And man, how good just that Jamal Adams trade look right now. I mean, think about if we didn't make that trade. He was quiet in that first half, but that second half, man, I mean, again, he led the team with 10 tackles, 6 solo. He was the only guy to get a sack, and he had multiple pressures on Cam Newton. So, I mean, that trade is looking good for us right now, but we definitely need some more help.
Okay, what we did last time was we just went through the positives and the negatives. So I'm just going to get the positives out of the way now because I feel like the negatives are the thing we need to talk about most. Russell Wilson is on a new level. Amazing. There's nothing we can say tonight that is people don't know already. Russell Wilson's fantastic. Receivers did great. DK Metcalf against Stephon Gilmore, brilliant. I think that was a statement game from him. There's a lot of hype around DK, but I think he needs to show it in games like this, and he did tonight. So I thought that was a statement from him. Wonderful touchdown. Amazing touchdown from David Moore. Well done, Freddie Swain, first touchdown of your career. Receivers really helped Russell Wilson out. Greg Olsen didn't. That's another story. On defense, Hugo Amadi, I thought he did a really good job in relief of Marquise Blair. I think that Jamal Adams, as you mentioned, did very well. I think Leno Hill's play at the end is so important because that saved the game the way that he came crashing down at the end. Right, that's the positives done. Okay, let's get on to the negatives because for me, Robbie, you say that you don't want to beat a dead horse, and I don't either. But you cannot talk about anything else, in my opinion, other than the fact that this defensive line is going to cost the Seahawks. I cannot believe how bad a job they have done fixing the pass rush, which was their stated priority at the start of the offseason. They have made the pass rush worse. I mean, it is worse than it was last year. There is no pressure there is no speed from the edge. There's no pressure from the edge. There's no push inside. They have given up in 2 games 970 total yards. They have given up 55 points. Do you know, when you came into this game, and if you'd have said to me that the Patriots are going to get 29 first downs, I wouldn't be that surprised because I'd think that it'd be a lot of first downs in the running game. That maybe they'd move the chains quite a few times. They had 22 first downs passing. I mean, that's just incredible. Only 7 of their first downs were on the ground. I mean, it's just Cam Newton had 397 passing yards. This is a serious problem, Robbie. It didn't cost them tonight. It nearly did. I mean, there is absolutely no way that you should nearly lose a game when you are 35-23 up with about 4 minutes to go. If they'd have lost that game, it would have been an utter disgrace, and it would have been a finger point at the 3rd down call where they tried to bomb it downfield to Tyler Lockett instead of just, I don't know, a higher percentage play, whatever it is, run or pass. That would have been to blame, as well as this sieve-like defense, which is just, I'm sorry, but Jamal Adams is not making up for the ills on the defensive line. He's great, but he and the rest of these guys need some help. And Russell Wilson deserves better than this, Robbie, because he could win the MVP. He could win the Seahawks a Super Bowl. This offense can win a Super Bowl. This defense will lose you a Super Bowl. Will lose you a playoff game. Will lose you a big NFC West game.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start with my positives. I mean, I already kind of mentioned like Russell Wilson and Jamal Adams, and I'm going to agree with you on Ugo Amadi. I think he played a hell of a football game. He came in for Marquise Blair, and he just stepped it up. He made a couple great tackles and just seemed to be in the right spot. And he just kind of plays with an edge and a little bit of an attitude, and I love it. And I don't know if he's picking that up. I didn't see that last year, so I don't know if he's getting that from Jamal Adams or what it is. But I really like the way that he played. And I know Quentin Dunbar. He had that drop pick six that just was right there. But I mean, he made up for it with that other pick. And I also think he played a really good game. Second game, again, we gave him a pass last week, and I feel like he's starting to get a little rhythm. And you can see how quickly he reads that jump. I mean, he had that multiple times on that out route that he's got that jump, and we need our corners to get those picks. And so I'm really excited about him. Yeah, let's get to the negatives. I mean, and for me, I'm going to go like right in the middle. I mean, I felt like even when we did get, I wouldn't call it necessarily speed off the edge, but when we got a push off the edge or we went wide, there was nothing up front, right? What happened to Jerron Reed? I mean, he had 10 sacks 2 years ago, and now he just disappears. And he used to be a run stopper, and now I don't feel like he's doing anything. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's who he's playing next to or what. I think Puna Ford, for the most part, is doing a good job at stopping the run when it comes to his side. But I mean, I'm not gonna give him really a pass either. I feel like the defensive line is going to be a struggle. And then now, you look at it and you've got injuries. You got Bruce Irvin going down, and I said last week, you can't have Bruce Irvin playing 80% of the snaps. You can't. He's not. He's 34 or 30 something. I mean, he's not the you bring in and have 80% of the snaps. So now you're looking at a need. Like, I mean, I don't know what is wrong with Bruce. I mean, calf, hamstring, or whatever it is, but the case might be, this is proof that we need more. So whether it's Clay Matthews, whether it's, I mean, I don't even know who it could be. Like, you got to go out and find someone. And again, I was really excited to see Alton Robinson out there. I mean, I know he's a rookie, but all this hype. I mean, we need help off the DN. Let's see it. Let's prove to us how good this guy actually is. I want to see the hype. If it's not there, then fine. But like, don't hype it up and then don't have him not play. Like, doesn't make any sense. So my negatives are those. And I also who else was I? I mean, and our linebackers, to be honest with you, I'm a little surprised. I really thought that we would do a better job of like, crashing down on Cam, and I didn't really see it as much as I felt like I should have today. So that's just kind of my negatives.
People will point to the run defense and say, well, they did a good job there. I think they had something like 2.7 yards per carry. But here's the reality of the situation. Cam Newton carried the ball 11 times in this game. The running backs carried it, I'm just having a look now, 14 times. They only ran the ball 14 times because they didn't need to run the ball. Every time Cam Newton dropped back, he could have ordered a Starbucks and drank it before he threw the ball. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. This D-line is just not. Listen, you know what? I think it's just the reality of the situation. People don't like talking about it. They say that we go on about it too much. Surely people can see with this game that the reason we talk about it is because, look, it didn't cost them tonight. They're 2-0, but next week they're playing the Dallas Cowboys. They've got a good offense. At some point, look at what the Rams are doing currently. The Cardinals, you have to play them a total of 4 games against those teams. If you cannot create more pressure than you are now, you are going to lose games. You could argue they should have lost this one right at the end. And it's not because of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's playing like the MVP. He had 5 touchdowns today. He was practically perfect today. They ran the ball. Let me get the numbers for the running game here. So the Seahawks ran for 154 yards on top of the fact that they had Russell Wilson playing a perfect game. There is no way Russell Wilson having a perfect game and the running game going for 154 yards should ever even get close to losing a game for you in Seattle. It's all because this defense is not good enough. Now, Bruce Irvin looked like he got a serious injury at the end, and people will go, well, that's serious now. He would have needed to be, I'm sorry, but Bruce wasn't doing anything today. Bruce is a lot older than he was when he was in Seattle last time. He's not creating any pressure either. So the fact that you're going to have to replace him, they're going to have to sign someone like Clay Matthews now, probably to replace Bruce Irvin. But whether it's Cameron Wake as well, whether you have to go and make a trade with somebody, you've been very aggressive with Jamal Adams. I think you've got to start ringing the phones and trying to find a team that has not started particularly well. I don't know who you could go and call, but you've got to go and find somebody to help this D-line, because what's going to happen, Robbie, for me, is that we can sit here now and we can say Russell Wilson was amazing, DK's amazing, all these things are amazing. If you're a Seahawks fan, what do you want to do this year? Do you want to have an amazing 11-5 and then lose in the divisional round again? Or do you want to win a Super Bowl? This should be about challenging for the Super Bowl. And this defensive line is not going to get you in the Super Bowl. It's just not. Don't waste another season of prime Russell Wilson. You have got to act now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't know if we're going to see it this week, though. I think you'll see a Clay Matthews signing, maybe a Cameron Wake. I didn't think about that. There's another player who's out there. I think you'll start seeing more aggressive towards the trade deadline. You'll start seeing something like, when teams are out of the mix, the Jets are clearly terrible. And, you start seeing these other teams who are realizing they're not going to make it, and they'll trade it, a D tackle for a late round pick or something like that. I just don't think you'll see it right now. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe there's a team that's out there that's willing to do that, but right now I just don't see that really being realistic. I mean, and if I'm going to go back to some more positives, like, just because, I mean, I like that kind of thing too. Man, DK is just put on a show tonight. I really felt like what you said earlier, like this was his coming out party. Like, he really, he impressed me. And the fact that he got in Gilmore's head and that they were scruffing on the sideline, and like he was like, he's making a name for himself, and he's like, I'm not just the guy who, last week he had those drops, but I'm not just the guy who like has the physique. Like, I want to be that top upper tier Julio Jones kind of player, and he made a name for himself tonight. And I was, it's awesome to see that kind of receiver in a Seahawks uniform. But back to the D line, yeah, I mean, I don't really know where you go from here. And then you're right, this is the reality of the situation. I mean, they brought back DeMarcus Christmas or whatever, and I don't know if you start to plug that guy in or what, but you got to do something. And you brought in the I'm gonna say his name wrong, DeAndre Walker. You brought him in, and you got these players, but like, why aren't they suiting up? Like, what is the deal? Like, Alton Robinson is supposed to, like, he had all this hype in the offseason. Like, if Pete really wants to compete, and early back when they made like 200 transactions in one season or off season or whatever, and they had a bunch of like rookies playing, like, let's see these guys play. Then if you're just going to throw out old players, like, and they're not going to do much, then let's try some of these young guys, give them an opportunity to prove themselves. Maybe one of them will step up and be a superstar. Maybe that is Alton Robinson, maybe it's not, but at least give them a shot to see.
I just don't understand how it's got to this, to be honest, Robbie. I really don't know. When you actually, if they'd have come out and said our priority in the offseason is to add a really dynamic, strong safety, then maybe it would have made a bit more sense. And if they'd have said in the draft, we need to get a linebacker, I could have, I then noticed, well, they never said anything about the pass rush. It's kind of caught them off guard a little bit. They thought they had more than they had. Maybe they had some misplaced faith in LJ Collier or Rasheem Green or anything like that. I could understand that. When they actually come out and say, we need to fix the pass rush, that is our priority, and then you don't do it in any way whatsoever, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, this. I mean, come on. Benson Mayowa is your premier pass rusher. He's got LJ Collier across from him, and you're relying on, I mean, they only had 3 defensive tackles until this week when they get the guy off the practice squad to have 4. I mean, anybody, the reason we've talked about it so much is because it was so obvious. You don't have to be a GM for the Seahawks to understand that this was completely predictable. And now they're in this situation. And for me, it's just very frustrating, because I personally feel the Seahawks as a team now have got this great potential because of Russell Wilson, because of the offense. Everything in that is geared up to being back in the Super Bowl this year and having a real go for it, even if they don't make it, getting to the NFC Championship game, going toe-to-toe with a New Orleans or a Green Bay or whoever's going to be there at the end, an LA Rams. The offense is there to really compete at the highest level. And this defense might be the worst in the NFL. It might be. It might be the worst in the NFL, despite the fact you've spent 3 first-round picks this year on the defense. You've used a second and a third because you traded up for the guy. You've spent nearly 50 to 60 million, and the cumulative result is maybe the worst unit in the league. And if it's not the worst unit, it's certainly the worst defensive line pass rush. I cannot think of a worse pass rush than this. Cam Newton had all day today, as did Matt Ryan, 970 yards. This has to be fixed. I mean, the problem is, Robbie, is, like we said, we've talked about two guys there, Cameron Wake and Clay Matthews, who are both my age. In fact, Cam Wake might be older than me. And, they've not at a training camp. What shape are they in? How much are they going to cost? Because if you turn to them and say, did you see Sunday Night Football? And they say, yeah, we did. You can stick another 2 million on that price tag because, this is, I just can't believe it. And I can't think of any obvious, people have asked me, who can they trade for? Who can they trade for? It's so early. You don't, there isn't anybody really who's tanking at this stage, that you could give up, let's say, the second round pick for on a rental. I can't think of anybody, but they have to do something. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's just going to be a wasted season. I'm sorry, but it is. This D-line cannot win the way they want to win with this D-line.
Well, they are winning. I mean, they're 2-0, right? But the thing is, yeah, it's not sustainable. That's the problem. And the other thing is like, man, you start bringing up teams like who are tanking. I don't think anybody's tanking yet, but you start looking at teams and you got to be realistic. Like, who's probably not going to be there? You start looking at the Bengals, and I've heard people talk about like Carlos Dunlap, and yeah, I'd take Carlos Dunlap and put him on our D line. I mean, I'm not saying he's the best player in the league, but man, he would sure be better than what we're throwing out there, and at least give us some sort of rotation. But again, you're looking at 4 or 5 weeks down the road, and next week's going to be a telling week, because you look at Dallas and you look at, man, they can run the football, they can throw the football. They've got a good offensive line. This is going to be a big test for us. And I mean, if you're playing fantasy football, I'd start Dak Prescott, because it's a good week to put up some points. And you're asking a lot of Russell Wilson and the offense to go toe to toe with it. And I think they can. That's one of the things that I don't think we've been able to say in the past, is like, this offense can go toe to toe. You never wanted to get into a shootout, but now I think, with the way that we're playing on offense and how well Russell Wilson is playing, we can get in a shootout. We can win these games. You don't want to see it happen like it happened tonight, though. You don't want to see us going down and them having the football in the end. And we got lucky. We really wanted to make sure that we wasn't a situation where we should have the football and going to win the game, and not the other way around. And so we got bailed out there. And but if that happens next week, you don't want Dallas to have the football there at the end.
Well, as I said at the start, when you are 20, they went 28-17, I think it was, ahead with about a minute 55 left in the third quarter. It took the Patriots a minute 55 to be in, goal to go. It was like that. It was real time as well. The clock didn't stop. I was sat there. I was like thinking, I was just starting to make a few notes. The instant reaction blog post, very positive, thinking they overcame a few things. Before I'd even written a couple of sentences, it was the end of the quarter and they were going in for a touchdown. And then, the Seahawks respond, and you think, well, okay, they've dodged one there, but they're going to win pretty handsomely in the end. And then again, with 4 minutes to go, they almost lose the game. Just incredible. And look, like I say, I don't want to, we're going to move on now, but I think that everybody can see, if there are still people out there saying, why are you talking about this? You need to give your head a shake, because this is a serious, serious issue, and they need to come up with a solution. The other sort of big thing I wanted to talk about, which is going to be a talking point, Robbie, is the 3rd and 1. You're looking to close the game out. And when they were sort of going into the formation for this, and this is where I worry a little bit about the whole let Russ cook thing, because Collinsworth's saying, well, if I think they're going to give it to Russell Wilson, I think they're going to do this, I think they're going to do that. And I think, the whole of Seahawks Twitter was saying, give it to Russ, give it to. And I just wonder if, if the back of their mind is Brian Schottenheimer sort of feeling that pressure to do stuff like that. Because I just remember the games, I'm trying to think back now, 2018, Green Bay, Kansas City, where they just got the ball with like 7 minutes to go and just ran it down the throat, finished the game off. They'd run it twice and got it into 3rd and 1. In a situation like that, I would rather run it on 3rd and 1 and feel the wrath of Twitter than try and throw it 30, 40 yards downfield, one-on-one with Tyler Lockett, because you just need to play the percentages at that point. You've just got to say, Dwayne Brown, Mike Yapati, stick another guy next to them. Chris Carson, here's the ball. Run to the left, and let's see if we can get 1 yard. What did you think?
Yeah, man, like we said before we even started this podcast, the first thing I said is, man, that 3rd and 1 really pissed me off. I really didn't like it. I'm the same boat. Give Chris the ball and let him see. But at the same time, or run a read option. Where was a read option tonight? I don't think I saw one. Maybe there was one, but like this is like the perfect time to run that, right? Like if you want to let Russ cook, it doesn't always mean he has to throw the football too. He can run the football. You can run a read option and have Tyler Lockett go out or Olsen or someone, but a different play than that. And I think that was getting a little too cute and a little too above. They let that 4th down touchdown to DK last week. I think maybe go to their head and thought, oh well, we can dial it up. We'll get someone behind them and we'll we just trust Russ to make that throw. But it's not a good play at all.
No, it's not. And, and in the end, it didn't, they won the game anyway. But I just feel like you've got to be conscious of these things. I was equally disappointed with the way that they dealt with the 1st and 20. I don't know if that was, I think that was on the drive before the touchdown to Chris Carson, the touchdown pass, which should have sealed the game, the 5th touchdown, was your 1st and 20. And you run twice in that sequence, especially, and you run on 3rd and forever. It was a give-up play, so the white flag went up. And I thought, well, have you seen the defense play? You're turning it over to the defense to keep you in front in that situation. It was like, well, that's the time to be a bit more aggressive 1st and 2nd down. Later in the game, there may be the time to try and run to win. But, they still won the game. And this is the funny thing for me, Robbie, is that we've spent this podcast, and I'm mostly to blame for that, talking about negatives. But I don't sit here personally feeling like I necessarily enjoyed that game. I enjoyed it because it was entertaining and the Seahawks have won, and I'm happy that the Seahawks have won. It might not seem that way, but I am. This is how we express happiness in Britain. But you know what? The thing that I feel about it is, to me, I'm just looking ahead, I think you just want to be able to believe in the team. You want to believe that your team can get to the Super Bowl. And I feel like 50% of it can and 50% of it's, picking in the top 5. And I just want it to be more complete and to go into that Dallas game thinking, yeah, do you know what? They can win without Russell Wilson needing to score necessarily 35 points, or, they're needing to pull up 500 yards themselves, or needing these ridiculous endings in order to see out a home game. Because I just fear that if it's not Dallas next week, it'll be Arizona or the Rams or the Niners or somebody else. And this is why I said 10-6, because they've got an offense that should get them 13, 14 wins like the Ravens. They've got a defense that is going to drag them back into the pack.
Yeah, I mean, one of the 10-6, 11-5. I mean, I think that's a realistic, schedule or record for us. I mean, you start looking ahead at the schedule and who we play, and Dallas is going to be a tough one next week. But after that, you got Miami, should be a surefire win. Minnesota doesn't look like they're anything close to being what they should be, and so I think that could be another win. And then we get our bye week, and then I think at that point is when you're going to start seeing some possible trades, maybe getting some other players in, and then at that time, I mean, let's say we lose to Dallas, and then we go, we win the next 2 games. You're looking at 4-1 to start, and like I said, it's about winning the NFC West first. If we can do that, get in the dance, maybe something can happen. I mean, we've seen teams that don't have great pass rush win the Super Bowl, but I mean, this is really, really, really bad pass rush. So I mean, obviously there's going to need to be something there that will help us going down the line. But this is a good offense, and I think it can carry us a little bit, and we'll see what happens when we get there. But I mean, as it stands right now, I look at it and I look at our schedule, and I think there's a lot of winnable games. I'm interested to see how we play Arizona, because they're playing really good football right now. At first I thought, when we first talked about the NFC West, I was like, man, the Cardinals, they're young. I think they'll be good, but they'll win, I think I said 7 games or something like that. And, I knew the Rams would be back, and you know, man, I feel bad for the 40. I'm not a huge 49er fan, obviously, clearly, but I do feel a little bit bad about, man, they got decimated by injuries today. And so, you look at that, and as long as we can start, stay healthy, you don't want to see players getting hurt. And that's always the worst thing. But I do think we have a chance. We just got to get there.
I've just seen it. Pete Carroll is doing his press conference as we are speaking here, and I've just seen a quote from him on the pass rush. So he was asked about it for a change. We've got to be more creative to help those guys out, he says. I don't think you're going to be able to create opportunities for the personnel that you have up front. I think you've got to do something. But as we've talked about, the options are not quite there. This isn't a problem that should be being fixed in September. This is a problem that should have been fixed in March. And it certainly should have been fixed in August, when there was still Everson Griffin and people like that around, some defensive tackles who were still there. They could have patched this together better. If you just, look, Mike Daniels and Everson Griffin and Timmy Jernigan and people like that are not going to save a season, but they might just be good enough to get you out of the hole so that you can actually put a competent defensive line out there. And those guys went off the board for a cheap price, and the Seahawks didn't show any interest, and they didn't end up with Jadeveon Clowney in the end. I'm not even sure if Jadeveon was still here, whether he would be enough to rescue this defensive line on his own. I think they needed more than this, and I don't know. I think it's a big, big problem, and that's why we've talked about it. But the Seahawks are 2-0, so we can all take some comfort in that, and people enjoyed the game. Neutrals enjoyed the game. They're saying how amazing the game was. I'd like to have it's 5 a.m. here. I would like to have a game when it goes on till 5 o'clock in the morning, where I can kick back and relax, maybe do the podcast a little bit earlier. Not the case once again following the Seahawks. Life as a British Seahawks fan. Robbie, thank you for your time. Appreciate everybody out there listening. It's on YouTube, so give it a share, give it a like, spread the message. Let us know what you think. If you just want to shout to me in the comment section for talking about the defensive line as much as I did, then go ahead. You're free to do so. If you've got any other thoughts on the game that you want to share, if you've got any suggestions on how the Seahawks can repair these issues on the defense, let us know what you think. For more analysis, go to SeahawksDraftBlog.com, and we'll see you in the week as we preview the Dallas game.